Discover the incredible transformation, how 10 brave souls overcame the horrors of Gilles De Rais. In Maplewood, a town crumbling under the weight of forgotten dreams, whispers floated like smoke through the air. They spoke of a past riddled with both glory and tragedy, shadows cast by the infamous Gilles De Rais still haunting the streets. But one woman, Sarah, a determined single mother of 2, felt the flicker of courage within her ablaze that could challenge the ruins of their history. Each day, she wore her struggles with pride, juggling her shifts at the diner and the grocery store, her children's laughter echoing like a ray of light in the shadowed corners of this faded town. Yet, skepticism hung thick, muffling their spirits. Every Saturday, the community center pulsed with life as residents gathered for the farmers' market. Amid the laughs and chatter, the aroma of fresh produce danced in the air, a balm for their weary souls. Sarah could almost taste hope on the wind, a longing to reclaim the town's spirit that had been snuffed out too soon. Gaze flickering to the cracked sidewalks, she gripped her kids' hands tighter. They may have lost much, but she believed they could reclaim it all. It was during one of these bustling Saturday mornings that her ears perked up to a conversation heated and urgent, as 2 patrons inaudibly gestured about an upcoming town hall meeting. Gossip of a local businessman, now surrounded by troubling rumors, hung like a storm cloud. Determined to lift her neighbors out of the fog of fear, Sarah knew that if they didn't stand together, they would be consumed by the past. She reached out to John, the war veteran whose haunted eyes belied his resilience, Helen, the beloved teacher fighting to bring light back into her classroom, and Marco, the young farmer with dreams bigger than the prejudices he faced. Together, they began weaving a bond, each one sharing their stories, their burdens laying heavy on their hearts. Each laugh echoed deeper than the last, nurturing roots in a soil dry from neglect, each person's journey a testament to survival. But as their strength blossomed, the darkness loomed closer. Whispers turned into shouts, disrupting the fragile harmony they had formed. A betrayal was uncovered among them, shattering the trust they had built as if it were a fragile glass ornament. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. With the townsfolk gathering once more at the community center, the tension thickened, emotions swirling like dust spirals as Sarah stood at the forefront, heart racing. What should she say? Should she reveal the truth, exposing the ugly treachery woven into their community, or should she attempt to protect what was left of their fragile unity? Silence enveloped the crowd, the distant wail of a siren piercing through the deep breath of anticipation. All eyes were on her. This was their moment. Would they unite in defiance of fear, or would the past fracture them apart? As Sarah took a step forward, she realized that their fate hung in the balance, her voice trembling with the weight of choices yet to be made, standing before a turning point that teetered on the edge of despair and hope. The air crackled with unspoken words, a blend of uncertainty and longing hanging between Sarah and the gathered crowd. She could feel the weight of their expectation, the silent plea for a beacon of hope. With her heart pounding against her ribs, she glanced at her children, their innocent faces offering her the strength she desperately needed. Listen, she began, her voice stronger than she felt. We all know this town has faced its share of darkness. But what I see here today is something beautiful, something we can build upon. A murmur ran through the crowd, curiosity flickering like a flame. John, who stood beside her, nodded in agreement. It's time we face the truth together, he said, his gravelly voice cutting through the whispers. We can't let fear keep us in chains. Sarah sensed a shift, the tension loosening as a few more residents stepped forward, emboldened by John's words. Helen, her eyes shining with passion, added, yes. We've let our fears divide us for too long. It's time for a reckoning. Our children's futures depend on it. With each word, the fragile ties of trust started to weave anew. Little by little, faces that once wore fear transformed into expressions of determination. Even Marco, usually quiet, raised his voice, speaking of dreams deferred. What kind of place are we giving our kids? They deserve better than to be haunted by our past. But just as hope started to spark, a chill swept through the community center. The newcomer, a figure silhouetted against the afternoon light, stepped forward. It was Roy, the businessman shrouded in rumors. The crowd tensed, distrust palpable. Now, Roy said, attempting to drown the emerging solidarity with his smooth words. I understand the fears. Believe me, I'm here to help. You all want change, right? I can bring resources to Maplewood, jobs, investments. But I need your trust. A collective gasp echoed. Sarah felt anger bubbling under her skin. She wasn't the only one. The crowd erupted in protests, accusations flying like arrows. Liar, shouted a woman from the back. You want to exploit us. Yet in the midst of the chaos, Sarah remembered what they had built together, the laughter, the shared burdens. Her heart quickened, and she stepped up again. She faced Roy, her stance firm. Trust is not given freely, Roy. You need to earn it. We've been burned too many times. Roy's expression flickered between annoyance and intrigue. Is that a challenge, Sarah? Not a challenge, a promise, she fired back, emboldened by the solidarity that buzzed around her. We don't need your help if it comes with strings attached. If you truly want to invest in this town, prove it to us. Gasps of surprise rippled through the crowd. The murmurs turned to nods, they were uniting in their resilience. Sarah's words had ignited a fire within them, one that promised change, but deep within, Sarah felt the unease. Would Roy actually relent? Or was this merely the beginning of a darker game? As silence fell once more, an undeniable tension replaced the chaos, leaving behind an unsettling question: could they trust each other enough to rebuild? The future loomed like a storm cloud, yet within that darkness flickered a glimmer of possibility. What would come next? Would they rise united or fall fractured? Would they find the truth buried beneath fears? And as uncertainty reigned, her heart raced at the thought of the next town hall meeting where everything could change once more. Sarah stood on the stage, her heart still racing as the crowd began to shift. Uncertainty lingered like a fog, but a spark of defiance now ignited the atmosphere. The faces before her, once laced with fear, began to reflect a newfound resolve. She could sense it, a collective heartbeat, a rhythm that pulsed with determination and hope. Let us not let our fears dictate our future, John reiterated, standing tall beside her. His words were like salt on an open wound, awakening something dormant in the hearts of those present. We know what this town used to be. We can bring it back. He motioned to the crowd, rallying their collective memories of laughter and community. Helen stood next, her eyes fierce and bright. Change doesn't come from waiting for the perfect opportunity. It comes from standing up to what seeks to tear us apart. The spark of her passion spread like wildfire. One by one, people began to rise, voices swelling with a unified cry for transformation. Yet, despite this rising hope, Sarah could feel Roy's smirk cut through their energy like ice. He watched them, calculating and calm in a way that sent shivers down her spine. His presence loomed large, threatening to crush their brave sentiments. She could almost hear the whispers of doubt in the corners of her mind. What could they really achieve? The room shifted again as Roy stepped forward, attempting to reclaim the authority he once held. You all misunderstand what I'm offering, he said, his voice smooth like silk but thick with deceit. Investment is essential. You need the resources I can provide to become prosperous once more. Prosperous for whom? A voice shouted from the back. It was Marco. We don't need handouts from someone who jerks us around. We need integrity. The crowd erupted into applause, and Sarah felt a swell of pride. Among the chaos, a woman she recognized from her kids' school shouted, "What makes you think we trust you after everything we've faced?" Roy, unfazed, continued speaking, but Sarah felt a small voice within her rise above the noise of his words. "This is our chance to reclaim everything stolen from us," she said, raising her hands to the crowd. She wanted them to see the reality of the matter, that beyond fear lay hope. "Listen," she shouted over Roy's voice. "If we're going to turn this town around, we need to stand together. No more chains of distrust or past grievances," she urged, glancing at each familiar face in the crowd. "We have to foster a culture of transparency and accountability." "Yeah!" someone yelled, igniting a chorus of agreement. Around her, hands began to lift in solidarity, a wave of shared resilience washing over Maplewood. But just as encouragement surged, Roy's voice cut back in, undercurrent thick with anger. "If you think you can make it without my help, you're more foolish than I thought." Tension crackled in the air, an electric charge threatening to spark conflict once more. The momentum Sarah and the crowd had built wavered, and uncertainty lurked again. A group of young people, faces painted with zeal and youthful defiance, stepped forward. "You don't understand, Roy. We grew up alongside this town. We're not afraid to take a stand." Their fierce voices reminded everyone why they were there, their passion contagious, their dreams powerful. As the crowd erupted into cheers, Sarah felt the spirit invigorate the room. But in the pit of her stomach, a knot of apprehension formed. The tension was palpable. Could they maintain this unity? The looming town hall meeting promised confrontation, where truths would surface and alliances would be tested. Leaning into the moment, Sarah searched the crowd, wondering if the fire of collective change could withstand the shadows creeping closer. Would they really find the strength to outmaneuver Roy and reclaim the trust that their town desperately needed? Would the flames of hope continue to burn bright, or would they flicker out in the face of looming darkness? The crowd was electric, a palpable energy coursing through the air as Sarah stood firm on the stage. She inhaled deeply, letting the rush of adrenaline fuel her resolve. They had started this journey together, and now, with every heartbeat echoing in her chest, she was determined not to falter. "Remember," Sarah said, finding her voice amidst the echoing cheers. "We are not just fighting for ourselves, we are fighting for our families, our friends, and every soul that has called Maplewood home." The faces in the crowd formed a tapestry of hope and determination, each person a vital thread woven into the narrative of their town, but behind those fierce expressions, Roy's dark silhouette loomed, casting a shadow on their determination. His eyes glinted with a predatory sharpness, always calculating, as if he were dissecting their resolve. She felt his presence, a reminder of what had disheartened them in the past, what had almost made them surrender their dreams. "Now, let us not pretend that we can do this without support," Roy interjected, his tone dripping with condescension. "You think this passion will change the reality of our situation? You'll need me whether you admit it or not." His words struck like daggers, causing the collective spirit of rebellion to tremble. Anger flickered in the depths of Sarah's heart. How could he undermine everything they were striving for? Before she could respond, Marco stepped up, his voice steady. "Roy, you've shown us time and again that your support comes with strings attached. The only legacy you want to build is for yourself, not for this town." The crowd broke into a wave of cheers, but anxiety clung to Sarah like a second skin. She scanned the audience and locked eyes with Helen, who nodded knowingly. It was a small, silent agreement, a promise to stand united against the tide of negativity. Suddenly, a small voice rang out from the back. It was a girl, no older than 12, clutching her father's hand tightly. "My mom used to say that all we need is each other," she spoke, her tone innocent yet grounded. "We can fix things ourselves." Gasps of surprise fluttered like leaves through the crowd, and Sarah's heart swelled. The child's fierce belief in community ignited something deep within her, reminding everyone that their strength came not from money or influence, but from unity, a powerful bond forged in shared history and hope. "Exactly!" Sarah exclaimed, feeling the surge of connection. "This isn't about what we don't have, it's about what we can build together. We're all in this together, and that is our greatest strength." As the crowd erupted with renewed vigor, Sarah felt the weight of Roy's disdain press heavier on her shoulders. His lips curled into a sneer, his smile a mask of arrogance. Intimidation was his weapon, and he wielded it expertly. Just know this, Roy spat with seething contempt. If you walk away from me, you're sealing your own doom. His threat hung like a dark cloud, but Sarah refused to let it dim the light of hope. We're taking back our power, she shouted, rallying the crowd as they cheered in response. Let us build what we deserve. Together. Suddenly, amidst the thunderous applause, Sarah caught sight of something out of the corner of her eye, a flicker of movement. Was it doubt? Fear? Roy's face twisted into a darker shade of rage as he processed her unyielding resolve, and in that moment, she realized it wasn't just about the town. It was also about facing her own fears head-on. Just then, a whistle split the air, and a figure surged forward from the flank of the crowd. It was Alex, their youngest council member, eyes wide with urgency. Sarah. We've got a problem. Her heart sank. What now? The tension was thick as the crowd hushed, each pair of eyes shifting to Alex. Roy has allies, he said, breathless, and they're coming for us. An ache of dread mingled with her fiery determination. Did they have what it takes to unify against the shadows threatening their newfound hope? As darkness encroached, one inescapable question lodged in Sarah's mind: could they truly rise against the tide that sought to pull them under? Sarah's mind whirled as Alex's words hung in the air. The cheers of the crowd faded, replaced by a heavy silence that engulfed them. She could feel the shift in energy, the flicker of fear in the crowd's eyes mirroring her own rising dread. What did this mean for them, this newfound hope they were clinging to? Are you sure? She asked, stepping closer to Alex. She could see the urgency etched on his face, and it made her heart race. He nodded, swallowing hard. I overheard them at the diner. Roy's meeting with some folks from the east side. They want to make a stand against us. If they don't like what we're doing, they'll try to stop us, Sarah finished for him, a chill running down her spine. Panic was infectious, setting in as she glanced at Marco, Helen, and the others. The faces that had seemed so strong moments ago now held shadows of uncertainty. We need to prepare, Marco urged, stepping into the fray, his voice rising above the unease. They want to intimidate us, make us back down. But we're not backing down. No. We can't. Yelled a voice from the crowd. It was the girl from earlier, the one who had reminded them of their shared strength. We're stronger together. The crowd erupted in agreement, and Sarah felt the flickering flames of hope reignite. This is it. She proclaimed, a spark igniting within her. We need to show them that we are united. Each of us plays a part in this fight. No one stands alone. As she spoke, she could see the resolve slowly building back up in their eyes. One by one, people began to speak up, offering ideas and strategies, a plan forming amid the rallying cries. Let us organize teams, Helen suggested, determination lacing her voice. We can map out the town. Know where we stand and what we're up against. If we know our enemy, we can prepare. Lights and loudspeakers, Marco chimed in. We can use community gatherings to empower others. Spread the word and get more people involved. We need numbers on our side. Sarah nodded, a sense of purpose surging through her veins. They were building something. A resistance. She could feel it, tangible as the ground beneath her feet. But just then, a commotion erupted on the edge of the crowd. Out of the way. A figure shoved through the throng, and Sarah's heart raced as she recognized the unmistakable silhouette Roy. Did you think I would let you all sit here and plot against me without a reminder? He scoffed, a smirk playing on his lips. He gestured behind him, where shadows moved, a small group of people emerging, menacingly confident. These are my allies, and they've got the firepower to show you what real resolve looks like. Fear stabbed at Sarah's resolve, but she buried it deep. She couldn't falter now. The almost palpable tension crackled in the air like summer lightning. "We won, back down," she shouted defiantly, her voice breaking through the murmurs of apprehension. "You can try to scare us, Roy, but you'll find we're not frightened anymore. You underestimate our strength." "Strength? Ha!" Roy laughed, spreading his arms wide like a marionette master, but his eyes danced with something more volatile. "What about when you see your friends fall? When you're standing in your own rubble?" As dread twisted in her stomach, Sarah one-upped Roy's gaze. "And what happens when you see this town rise? Watch us build something beautiful despite you." The crowd, emboldened by her challenge, began to chant, their voices rising in a crescendo that filled the air, "Together! Together! Together!" But as the cheers echoed, Sarah felt a sickening certainty in her gut, the battle lines had been drawn. Roy was right about one thing, they might face loss. In that heartbeat, she realized the stakes were higher than she ever imagined. Would they succeed in their quest for unity, or would they face destruction at the hands of Roy and his supporters? As the tension crackled and the night stretched before them, Sarah took a breath, staring down her adversary. "We are family, and family fights for one another." And with those words, they waited, hearts pounding in anticipation of what? Darkness awaited them. What would happen next? Would fear prevail or unity triumph? As a storm began to brew on the horizon, Sarah contemplated the ultimate sacrifice and whether she was ready to pay it. The air felt charged, heavy with the weight of unspoken fears and undaunted hopes. Sarah's heart pounded like a war drum, each beat echoing the collective resolve of her friends. They were standing together against a threat that loomed ominously, like shadows gathering at dusk. Roy's laughter still resonated in her ears as he sauntered closer, flanked by his band of supporters. Each step he took felt like a challenge thrown at their feet. Sarah could sense the unease rippling through the crowd, but she refused to let it translate into retreat. "Focus!" she called out, raising her voice to peel back the layers of dread hanging in the air. "We won't allow them to steal our strength. If we stand firm, united, they won't break us." From somewhere close, someone shouted, "What's our plan, Sarah?" That question struck her, propelling her thoughts into overdrive. "Let's split into small teams," she suggested, feeling the energy beneath her skin. "Some can keep watch around the town and gather intel on their movements while others prepare defenses. We'll need barricades, noise, anything to disrupt them if they come for us." A ripple of agreement spread through the crowd. Heads nodded, newfound confidence ignited in their eyes. It was the flicker of fire she'd sensed before, now roaring with strength. As people began to disperse into their designated groups, the sound of footsteps squelched beneath them, and the smell of damp grass mixed with sweat filled the air. Sarah felt her heart settle. They were doing something, taking control instead of waiting for the fight to come to them. "Sarah, look!" It was Alex, pointing down the street. A car was approaching, its headlights slicing through the encroaching darkness. "Is that Roy's people?" The vehicle slowed, coming to a halt, and Sarah squinted, her breath hitching. Figures emerged from the car, their movements heavy and deliberate. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were exactly who Roy had rallied. "Stay back," she called, holding her hand out to the crowd. They instinctively recoiled, eyes wide and hearts racing. "Let us see who they are before we act." As the figures approached, Roy stepped forward, a triumphant grin plastered on his face. "Meet my friends," he drawled, gesturing theatrically to the group. These fine folks often resolve disagreements with more than just words. Each new face was hardened, steely-eyed, and Sarah felt her stomach tighten. These were not just random bystanders. They were allies of Roy, skilled and ready to escalate the conflict in a way she feared all too well. The tension slipped back into the air, heavier and thicker this time. "We've heard you're not afraid to fight," one of the newcomers sneered. "But you should remember some fights can't be won without sacrifice." Sarah felt a cold shiver pass through her. She caught Alex's gaze, focused and fierce, and he whispered, "We have to be smart about this. They want us afraid." Drawing on every ounce of courage she had, Sarah stepped forward, facing them with unwavering resolve. "You think you can intimidate us? This isn't just a fight for us. It's a fight for our home, our families." "Awfully brave words," Roy remarked, taking a step back, crossing his arms smugly. But Sarah was undeterred. "No one is alone in this. You think your threats mean anything? We'll stand tall, together, or not at all." A murmur of agreement broke through the crowd again, voices rising in affirmation. Every heart beat as one, a unified front against the dark tide trying to wash over them. Suddenly, laughter erupted from Roy, sharp and discordant. "How cute. But tell me, Sarah, when the dust settles, who will still be standing beside you? Your friends, or will this be yet another battle lost?" The question hung heavy in the air as tension coiled tighter around them. Sarah's mind raced. What sacrifices lay ahead? Could she protect those she loved and still fight? As she encountered Roy's gaze, she felt the crackling energy around her pulse, a constant reminder of the impending storm. They were standing on the edge of a precipice. But would courage be enough to hold the line? With uncertainty swirling in her mind, she refused to back down. They were family. And family fights for one another, no matter the cost. As she squared her shoulders against the looming darkness, an unsettling thought nagged at her. What would come next? Would their bravery be enough to face what was approaching, or would they risk everything to ensure their survival? Sarah's breath hitched as Roy's laughter faded into a menacing silence. The shadows around them thickened, their presence tangible like a weight pressing down on her shoulders. Time seemed to stretch, every heartbeat a silent drumroll of what was to come. She thought of her friends, each faced with uncertainty, and realized they were no longer just individuals, they were a collective, woven together by shared fears and hopes. "We need to establish a safe zone," Sarah called out, battling the knot of nerves in her stomach. "Let South barricade the square. If Roy and his crew want a war, we'll show them we're prepared." "Over there," someone shouted, pointing toward a nearby cafe with its wooden furniture still set outside. "We can use those tables and chairs." "Good idea," Sarah shouted back, rallying her group. They surged toward the cafe, adrenaline pushing through their veins. Laughter was gone, every face was serious, eyes sharp. She felt a renewed strength in their steps. As teams scattered to gather what they could, Sarah noticed Alex lingering at her side. His jaw was set in determination, but beneath it lay an unspoken fear. It mirrored her own. What if he hesitated, words caught in his throat? "We have a plan," she reassured him with a fierce smile, though her voice wavered. "We're not backing down. Not now." But doubts crept in like smoke. What if their plan wasn't enough? What if they were outmatched? She pushed the thoughts away, focusing instead on the mission ahead, the square filled with frantic movement. People dragged tables, chairs, anything they could find to create a barrier. Shadows danced on the pavement, thrown by flickering lights overhead, and in that chaos, something remarkable happened. With every object gathered, confidence grew. They were building more than a fortification, they were forging their purpose. A large wooden table was positioned at the front, and Sarah envisioned it as the symbolic heart of their stand. "Let us fortify this spot. A barricade here means we can protect each other," she shouted, gesturing for everyone to hurry. Alex caught her eye and nodded, an anchor in the tempest swirling around them. They both moved towards the table, gripping one end as they shifted it into position. The conversation around them buzzed with frantic energy, voices mingling into a rallying cry for strength and companionship. Suddenly, a loud crash echoed through the air. Everyone froze. A large group of Roy's supporters burst into view, stepping forward with a sense of purpose. They had come to make their presence known, and love for fear flickered in the eyes of Sarah's friends. "Just think," Roy's voice boomed out over the crowd, dripping with smugness, you can fight all you want. But how many of you will truly stand when it matters? Tension flared again, tightening the air like a taut rope. Sarah clenched her fists, the fire of countless emotions igniting in her chest. They needed to answer, they needed to show Roy they weren't backing down. Together. She shouted, her voice rising to break through the fear. We stand together, or we don't stand at all. Around her, a chorus echoed back, voices rising stronger than before. Together. 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 The sound washed over her, empowering, igniting a fierce spirit within her. Sarah looked at Alex, who was now smiling, the fear replaced by determination. But in that moment of reckless courage, the true weight of their situation crashed down upon her. A sacrifice was inevitable. She couldn't shake the feeling that this fight would demand more than they were prepared to give. Roy grinned, the challenge before them clear in his eyes, and as shadows deepened around them, Sarah knew this was only the beginning. What would the price of their stand be? And could they truly conquer the darkness gathering on the horizon? The air crackled with tension as Roy's supporters fanned out, their faces twisted with a grim enthusiasm for the confrontation. Sarah's heart pounded like a drum in her chest, the rhythm echoing in her ears. She took a deep breath and rallied her friends. We need to stick to the plan. Position yourselves. Be ready. Alex squeezed her shoulder, grounding her in the chaos. What now? He asked, his voice a low whisper, though the urgency of the moment made it feel louder. Just, don't be afraid, all right? We're in this together, she replied, projecting calm amidst her racing thoughts. As they moved to form the barricade, their hands quickly worked together, adrenaline firing every action. Each table they pushed into place became not just a piece of furniture, but a symbol of their unity. Each chair stacked defiantly represented their resolve. The square transformed before her eyes, with shadows giving way to a makeshift fortress, a beacon of resistance against the encroaching storm. Sarah! Someone shouted from the back of the crowd. It was Jamie, eyes wide with urgency. They're coming. Sarah turned to see the mass of Roy's supporters advancing with purpose. Fear twisted in her stomach. She could see their faces, some were sneering, others were simply eager for chaos. Her heart ached at the thought of her friends being swept away in that tide. Everyone, get ready! She yelled, raising her voice above the growing cacophony. With a sudden surge of movement, the two groups collided in the middle of the square. For a moment, it was disorienting. Bodies pushed against bodies, shoves turned into wrestles, and shouts aimed to embolden friends and frighten enemies filled the air. Sarah stood at the forefront, feeling the weight of responsibility crashing down. She caught sight of Alex, his face flushed with effort, fighting alongside their friends. Hope flickered within her. We won't lose, keep pushing. She called, longing to weave her strength into the collective force gathered around her, but then, within the fray, she saw something that made her insides twist. A group of Roy's more aggressive followers broke away. They seemed intent not just on overpowering them, but on causing real harm. Panic swelled within her, but she quelled it, determining to be the leader they needed. Protect each other. Stand strong and don't let them break through. She screamed, her voice saturated with desperation, yet laced with authority. In that fractured moment of chaos, the cries for strength from their collective grew louder, shaking the foundations of Roy's advance. Then, just as Sarah began to feel the tide turning in their favor, a familiar face stepped forward within Roy's ranks. Maya. Sarah's heart dropped. Her childhood friend had sided with Roy, and her features were hard as she glared across the battlefield. What are you doing, Sarah? This isn't you. Maya shouted, her voice piercing through the commotion like a knife. Sarah froze, caught in the whirlwind of emotions and memories. Maya. You don't have to do this. She pleaded, hoping to reach the girl she once knew. Maya's expression hardened. I'm with Roy now. You think your little resistance makes any difference? Stand down. This isn't the way. Sarah cried, feeling the ache of betrayal deep within her. Yet, with Maya at the helm of Roy's forces, it was clear that emotions alone wouldn't be enough to change things now that the air thickened with intensity. Sarah faced her friends, their eyes filled with resolve but clouded with fear. They were on the brink of something bigger than each of them alone. "Listen to me," she said, grounding herself. "This is our moment to stand up, and fight not just for ourselves, but for everything we believe in." Together, they were not just a group, they were a movement. Yet, against Maya now, it felt personal. What if she couldn't get through to her? What if the breach made by betrayal was deep and final? As she braced her body for the coming surge, Sarah realized the battle had only just begun, and the true confrontation awaited them beyond the physical clash lay the harder truth of loyalty, love, and sacrifice. What would it take to win back Maya's heart, or would she be lost forever in the shadows? The chaos swirled around Sarah like a storm. The clashes of bodies were punctuated by aggressive shouts and the thumping of feet against the cobblestones. Each push from Roy's supporters felt like a battering ram against the barricade they erected. Each hit echoed not just physically, but deep down in Sarah's chest. "Stay strong," she yelled again, scanning the faces of her friends. Jamie was right next to her, face pale but resolute. Alex clenched his fists, ready to defend. Each person was a thread in the fabric of their shared fight, and she felt that we'd begin to tighten that eye in her mind, though, she couldn't shake the image of Maya. Standing against everything they once believed in, her old friend had turned into a fearsome adversary. "What changed you?" she whispered to the wind, though she knew no answer would come. Suddenly, a sharp shriek broke her thoughts. A nearby clash erupted with unexpected ferocity as a cluster of Roy's followers surged forward. Sarah's breath hitched. "To the left. Protect the flank," she shouted, urgency flooding her voice. There was hardly time to think. As they pressed back against the onslaught, Sarah felt the heat of anger and fear building in her veins. It morphed into determination. One thought echoed louder than all others: they could not lose. Not just this physical battle, but the battle for who they were. For love and friendship and belief. "Keep pushing," Alex shouted as he defended against an incoming charge. Sarah caught the sight of a younger boy about to be swept away. Without thinking, she dashed towards him, grabbing his arm and pulling him back just before a mass of bodies could engulf him. "Thank you," he gasped, wide-eyed, and she felt a flicker of hope. Maybe, just maybe, they could hold the line. But then, from the tension of combat, she heard a voice that made her blood run cold. "You think I can't crush your little rebellion?" Maya's voice cut through the chaos, sharp as broken glass. Sarah's heart sank. "You'll regret standing against us. I'll make sure of it." "Stop," Sarah called out, her voice firm. "This isn't who you are, Maya. You care too much for this to be your reality." Maya's eyes flashed with anger, but for a second, that split second, the tension faltered. Sarah saw a flicker of indecision, a blink that spoke volumes. "Look around you," Sarah continued, hoping to reach her. "We are fighting for something real. For a future where we can be ourselves. Where we don't have to hide or fight this way." Maya's grip on her anger faltered. Just as quickly as it appeared, her mask of fury slipped slightly, revealing vulnerability beneath. Weight rested heavy in the air, the noise still swirling around them but dulling to a hush in that moment. Then it happened. An all-out push from Roy's group came crashing forward, the barricade shook violently as the structural integrity wavered. "Hold the line," someone shouted from behind Sarah, but all she could focus on was Maya, standing just a few feet away yet so far away in spirit. Everything inside Sarah insisted she couldn't back down. It wasn't just about her, it was about reaching Maya. "Maya," she yelled, "remember who we are. We used to stand together." For a heartbeat, the world suspended. Tension hummed through the air, threading every heartbeat and breath. Would her friends stand with her again? Before Sarah could breathe, the barricade splintered under the weight of the push, and chaos exploded anew. She stumbled forward, her heart racing, but every ounce of her being held fast to hope. As the crowd shifted and bodies clashed, she caught one last glimpse of Maya. Something flickered in her eyes, a glimmer of recognition, of conflict. The moment held potent possibilities. Would this be the turning point? But just then, Sarah felt a sharp shove from behind, toppling her towards the very chaos she fought against. It was all spinning out of control. And somewhere amidst the turmoil, a choice loomed, a choice that could change everything for them all. Would Maya choose love or the path they'd created? Gripping the ground, Sarah stared ahead. Breaths fast and deep. What awaited them in this moment of unpredictability? Would it be salvation or destruction? In that uncertain space, everything teetered at the edge, and so did her heart. The pandemonium around Sarah crescendoed like a symphony of survival. She was on her knees, heart pounding, limbs trembling. The barricade had fractured under the weight of Roy's officers, and yet within that chaos, her eyes sought out Maya through the throng. The attack was fierce, but all around her, she could feel something shifting and awakening, a resurgence of vulnerability against the backdrop of fear. Maya. Sarah called again, desperation laced in every syllable. The words tumbled out, not as a demand, but a plea. What are we doing? This isn't us. For a brief moment, the world around them blurred, chaos dampened to a dull roar, and Sarah could see the flicker of hesitation in Maya's fierce eyes. They were two souls separated by choices, but once upon a time, they were flames that burned as one. Memories of laughter echoed in Sarah's mind, their shared secrets, the dreams they once spun like silk threads in each other's company, yet as the clash of bodies raged on, so too did the weight of choice press down on Maya's shoulders. I can't just walk away, Sarah. Maya yelled back, anger prickling with uncertainty. You don't know what Roy has threatened me with. What I stand to lose. In that moment, Sarah realized it wasn't just about fighting a faceless adversary. It was about fighting for each other. For the love they once shared, the laughter, the bond that had forged them as friends. While swirls of chaos enveloped them, another call for unity punctuated the air. Her friends were regrouping, rallying around the heart of the makeshift barricade they decreated, embodying exactly what Sarah needed to demonstrate. Together, she urged, her heart full. You can stand with us, Maya. Don't let fear separate us. Let us bring back what matters. The words sank in, and for the briefest heartbeat, it all hung in the balance. Would fear chain her to betrayal or love lead her back home? Roy's men surged, blood in their eyes, but they didn't see the shimmer of uncertainty in Maya. They didn't see the whispers of a memory reaching out to grasp the threads of compassion beneath her growing rage. As the exchange unfolded, Sarah started to rise, hand outstretched towards her friend, her voice unwavering. Your heart knows what we've fought for. This isn't a battle against each other. This is about claiming back our community, our dreams. Maya faltered, rage melting under Sarah's intensity, her initial fiery bravado flickering before the warmth of shared purpose. The air turned electric. Could they truly choose to withstand the tide together? And then, with a boldness she hadn't felt in ages, Maya took a step back, her expression shifting from defiance to an unmistakable fire of hope. You're right. I don't want this. I refuse to be just the pawn in someone else's game. Her eyes alighted, rising with the siege and the momentum bursting forth around her. I choose us. The shift was palpable, reverberating like a thunderclap through the crowd. Sarah saw energy flow back into their group, a rush of renewed strength as Maya broke away from Roy's command, joining Sarah at the forefront. With the tide turning, Sarah felt strength bounce back within herself, a surge of elation pulsing through her veins. We are together. We are family. She shouted, the barricade shimmering with the light of determination, forging them into unbreakable bonds. Next to her, Alex, Jamie, and all their friends surged forward, spirits ignited, fists raised defiantly against Roy's force. Laughter bubbled in the crowd, overcoming fear as they faced their foes united. Together. 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 Their voices rang out, higher and stronger than ever, drowning the dark echoes of betrayal with an anthem of defiance. Roy's smirk faltered, anger brandishing the edge of his lips. Let them have their moment of false hope, he spat, yet his bravado was waning. Sarah seized the moment. This is our town. We aren't backing down. They pressed forward, hands clasping with a purpose that transcended fear and doubt, every heart aligned against the storm. As they pushed to reclaim what had nearly been lost, Sarah felt deep within her an unyielding strength sparked by each soul beside her. A shoulder brushed against hers. Maya stood there, fierce and proud, a reminder that even in injury, love could heal, and even fractured bonds could be reforged in fire. The battle raged, but united as a whole, they were stronger, flames licking away the shadows of betrayal. Sarah thrust herself into the fray, not just for her dreams but for every person who longed to fight for the heart of Maplewood. The night was far from over, but as they surged into the dawn, hands interlinked in solidarity, their collective cry flew into the abyss, deep and resonant. And somewhere in the storm, hope resumed its rightful place, shimmering above them, guiding them home. This is more than a story of conflict, it's a tale of resilience and unity. If you felt the fire of hope igniting within you, you need to subscribe now to catch every transformative story that unfolds. Leave a like now to help fuel the algorithm and let everyone know what you felt during this journey. Comment below with your reactions. How did this fight resonate with you? And don't wait not even one more second. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need inspiration. Supporting the channel through these actions is what truly empowers our community.